Hello and welcome to the Afterspark podcast, an episode-by-episode recap of the Generation 1 Transformers cartoon. I'm Alice.
And I'm Specs.
And today we're going to be talking about episode 76, Forever is a Long Time Coming. Let's talk about giant robots today, shall we?
Oh boy, we really will be. And today on Back to the Future... No, wait. Wrong 80s property.
We begin on Cybertron with a group of Autobots flying off towards a fairly close asteroid belt.
And Rewind is both mentioned and gets a voice line, albeit he's in cassette mode inside Blaster at present time.
Percy informs Blaster, and therefore us, that these asteroids are giving off a strange energy. The energy of time itself! I'm not sure how you measure that, but okie dokie. If anybody could do it, I believe Percy would be able to do it.
Or Wheeljack, but we're fresh out of Wheeljacks.
Wheeljack is no longer here!
Sir not appearing in this season at all. Our group consists of Perceptor, Blaster, Blur, and Wreck-Gar. And
at least a couple of Blaster's cassettes as well, though they're not even all named when they start speaking from inside Blaster's chest. We have barely seen these cassettes, in comparison to Soundwave, so, you would only know who these guys are if you'd gotten the toys and some of the supplemental media, but some of them haven't even really had voice lines before.
Yeah, it's very confusing. Sharkticons attack the group, with Percy deducing that this means that there's a Quintesson presence on their asteroids.
And the group fights the Sharkticons, as one might expect.
Blaster sends out Ramhorn and Rewind to help with the fight.
At a Quintesson installation of some sort on the asteroid, we get the return of our Transformers time units with macroseconds.
Much to our host's consternation.
The Quintesson is ordering his dudes to open a time window, but cautions that it cannot be open for long.
It's also a funky shape. Percy is able to observe this time window and further observe them using some giant claw, one of those claw machines, and pulling something out of the window.
Well, I'm glad they could get something out of the claw machine. God knows I never can.
I've only managed one thing, and that was with luck. Yeah, funky claw games. We're all bad at them.
Quintesson edition.
Yeah. They have better luck than us, those lousy Quints.
Our Quintesson's grunts are none too smart, however, as they are chasing the Autobots and shooting them, inadvertently also hitting the time portal.
And kind of driving the Autobots into it. The Quintesson is not pleased about this, and is even less pleased when Rodimus and Superion show up.
His grunts grab him and then manhandle him into a ship, leaving behind the now opened time portal.
Oh, bad things for the universe, apparently.
Also, apparently, Blur, Wreck-Gar, Blaster, and his cassettes disappear into the time gate, but because the gate itself is layered incorrectly with the animation, it doesn't really look like that's what's happening.
This isn't even the worst glaring issue they've ever had, but it is very confusing, and also, Percy got shot down, so he did not get to do the time warp today.
He didn't get to go on their field trip.
Oh, he'd have enjoyed it, though.
He would have. Roddy arrives to help the injured Percy, who informs him of the other's disappearance before losing consciousness.
So Rodimus, flies past Percy, completely overlooking him face down on the ground.
At least initially.
Yes. Superion lands and splits into the separate aerial bots. And then a robot man, suddenly fades into existence in front of the aerial bots.
I think they're implying that this is what the Quintesson and his crew pulled out of the time window, but the robot man just sort of appears all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Yes, when it's pulling something out, when you could see it from, a distance, it was pulling, a green glowy thing. I guess that's Dude McMahon in front of us. And now, in the past, the Autobot crew is attacked by a tower and a huge purple Guardian bot.
Rewind actually gets a lot of lines here.
It's probably the only time he does.
Yeah. Through his observations, though, the others figure out that they are in the past somehow.
Well, Rewind's the historian, so... But we get a commercial break just as the group is about to get squished by the Guardian.
Upon return, a lovely green ladybot attacks the Guardian with an exploding crossbow bolt, allowing the group to get away, and they follow her to safety.
Sadly, she doesn't make any appearances in any other media, but this is Beta.
She informs the group that she is looking for their leader, A3.
A3, as you may have predicted, is in the present or future, depending on your perspective here.
Speaking of the present, the Autobot group there is concerned that the time window is still leaking energy.
You know, leading to bad things for the universe. Percy is also getting some much-needed repairs by pipes.
The Autobots aren't the only ones worried about the time energy leaking, as we see the Quintessent from before telling his commander that this is bad and that they're destabilizing the universe and, in fact, time itself.
We fucked around and found out so badly. And they also care because they live in this goddamn universe.
Yeah, I will grant that they probably care more than, I want everything to be destroyed, Galvatron.
Yes, considering the man is omnicidal.
No kidding.
The bot.
So we see the energy flowing through the universe and making weird things happen throughout, including de-aging Marissa Fairborn.
You know, it would have been interesting if they'd had this affect Autobot City and then suddenly there's a bunch of alive Autobots who were dead before.
Oh god, that should be a fanfic idea. That would be terrifying!
Oh, it would.
Or rather dark, at least.
Sudden revival and then nothing happens when it stops.
That would definitely be one way to bring a bunch of people back to life without just kind of a hand-wavy explanation, eh?
Yeah. Hey, it's as good as anything else Transformers has done.
It's as good as the actual time Optimus comes back.
Oh, it's better than the actual time Optimus comes back, because presumably they aren't going to be fucking zombies. Sorry, let's get back on track. When the Quintessent started his day, it was Tuesday. And then it was all the Tuesdays. All at one time. Forever. We're in a bagel, guys.
So A3 has apparently recovered and is back on his feet, and yes, is the one that came through the portal. He is a white, purple, and burgundy bot with a tiny black porn stash. Why does a robot have a porn stash?
It was the 80s. They had to make him charismatic somehow.
Did the 80s believe porn stashes made you charismatic? I have questions.
I am shrugging so much. Okay. I don't know. They had to give him some sort of visual distinction. So A3 is suspicious of Rodimus possibly working for the Quintessents, but their conversation is interrupted by a Quintessent attack.
A3 gets thrown into space by a blast in what we're going to lovingly call turtle waving his little legs in the air while on his back position.
Yeah, it looks so goddamn awkward, guys.
It's very silly.
And then A3 is saved by Superion.
Superion is being fired on by multiple Quintessent ships at the time and says, "It's finished."
You have survived much more than this, Superion. Don't be a quitter.
Look, maybe he's just had a very long day, okay? So, A3 turns into Old Man Alpha Trion for like 5 seconds, saying, "No, you must live that I can be born."
Is this the fault of the time ripples, or is this just some fucked up vision that Superion is having? And also, A3, Alpha Trion, you're already alive.
Yeah, don't ask us how any of this works, because I legitimately don't know if it was a vision Superion was seeing or if it's due to the time strangeness. We did see Marissa de-age, so aging rapidly would also presumably be a thing that could happen.
Yeah. There's more time reality madness. I still think the fucking dead Autobots just walking out of the past and into the future would have been interesting, a la the whole stupid time portals from...
Yeah. But Superion is briefly seen in 2 places at once, and it isn't for once an animation error.
They actually paid attention to things somehow. And in the past, the Autobot group is helping to distract some more Guardian bots so Beta and her group can get past them.
But the efforts of the Autobots and Rebels only work to incite the Quintessent's ire.
The Quintessent scientist contacts the Autobots in the present and tells them that they need to close the window, otherwise space and time will tear itself apart.
The Autobots don't exactly believe him at first, but eventually they do begin working with him.
A3 volunteers to go through the portal to retrieve Blaster and company.
Once back in the past, A3 is able to activate a device that freezes all the Guardians, and he tells, our present-day Autobots to get back to their own time.
Mm-hmm. Because A3's got the Deus Ex Machina.
Guardian off switch.
Yes. And so Blaster, Blur, Wreck-Gar, and the cassettes managed to escape just in the nick of time.
Rewind gets to be wheelie for a few seconds.
Oh, the humanity.
The robot manity. But Rewind also manages to convince me that he is the proud owner of the other lonely brain cell bouncing around the Autobots by correctly deducing that A3 was Alpha Trion after seeing him for like 3 seconds.
However, the other Autobots, they earn our scorn as they seem surprised by this information.
Then we get to see A3 immortalized in the stars as our episode abruptly ends. It feels very anime. It feels very, like, old school anime where, like, you have the person in the distance as...
in the stars, watching over the present or whatever. It does feel kind of like that, except with less reason.
Yes, I actually agree with you there. Like, Alpha Trion's been dead for a while.
I mean, considering he dies when the aerial bots are born, yes. Or before they're born. Or technically he just transfers into a different state of being, considering he joins with the goddamn Vector Sigma that we never see again.
Well, we do in Beast Machines. And it's suddenly female.
Alpha Trion decided to have a sex change.
Good for him. Good for her? I don't know.
Giant glowing ball thing.
Look, the giant glowing ball thing be whatever gender it tells us it is.
Yeah. Alright, so join us next time for a surprise party where Wheelie and Daniel team up to surprise Ultra Magnus and hijinks ensue.
As one might expect with a child and
a rhyming small child bot attempting to find out someone's birthday. Alright, so we have 2 fanfic recommendations, one from myself and one from Els. So I'll go first. The first one is Pygmalion by Velvet_Glove. It's a G1 cartoon continuity and rated G. It's Gen, there's no pairings. Our characters here are Alpha Trion, aka A3, Beta, and the Quintessence. In summary, Quintessence creates woman, and I theorize on the origins of the species. So the theme here was Beta and the origins of Transformers. And it's a one-shot. And then on to Els.
Alright, so mine for today is One Good Thing by Lush_Specimen. The continuity is IDW, it's rated T, it is Slash, it is Drift and Ratchet. Our characters are Drift, Ratchet, Turmoil, and Hunger. In summary, Deadlock joined the Decepticons the first chance he got. They gave him a place, a purpose, a direction to channel his rage. While he would happily forget his entire miserable existence in the dead end before the war, there was one bright memory he cherished above all else. The shining red and white armor and gentle hands of a stubborn medic who saved his life when the world accounted him for nothing. Their paths cross again when Ratchet is taken prisoner by the brutal commander Deadlock was sent to assist. Deadlock resolves to use every weapon at his disposal to save the one good thing left in the universe. I am going to very, very generously say that the theme here was looking back at past events.
Yeah, that's fair.
It is multi-chapter, it is completed. It's been a while since I read this, but I do think it was entertaining, or at least interesting. In IDW, Drift used to be Deadlock with the Decepticons. Well, Drift's fascinating, but also kind of difficult to explain quickly. Drift became Deadlock, who was a really high-ranking member of the Decepticons, and then at some point decided he did not want to be a Decepticon anymore and went back to using the name Drift. So, it's the same person, just to clarify, because I called him Drift in pretty much any other time.
He changed his name a few times.
Yeah, so I'm like, I'm not held responsible for the poor decision-making of Drift/Deadlock.
Yep. Alright, and that just about wraps it up for us today. Remember to check us out on Tumblr or Pillow Fort as Afterspark-podcast for any additional information, show notes, or links we may have mentioned. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at AftersparkPod, all one word, and various other locations by searching for Afterspark podcasts such as AO3, iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, just to name a few. And feel free to send us questions on Tumblr, YouTube, or AO3. Till next time, I'm Specs.
And I'm Els.
Toodles.
Today we bring the show to you from the Pacific Northwest, where we're all dying from heat stroke.